What's up, guys? It's Eventon here, and as you can see by the title of the video, we're going to be talking about hauling fits specifically for the Sunesis. I actually have about 4 or 5 different ones, including a bonus one I have for you guys that's not technically a hauling one, but it can be. It's kind of a one I'll show you guys here in a little bit. But what prompted me to make this video was actually I did see quite a few people in the haulers channel asking for recommendations that are new to hauling. They want to find a ship that has relatively low skills. They can get from A to B very safely, and if occasionally they do get expensive modules or implants, things like that, from missions or that they buy from a different station, they want to be able to transport them in a safe manner. And so that's why I recommended the Sunesis. This ship is one that's used by, you can use this thing as soon as day one, all the way till you retire your account for good, because it's just that good. Strangely enough, this is one of these ships that aren't listed on the main shipping tree. So when you open up the shipping tree here, so we're looking at like Minotaur ships, you're just not going to find it because it doesn't belong to any faction or like pirate faction at all. So the only way to really find this thing, other than typing it in here, is to open up the regional market that you have. Doesn't matter where you are, and you have to go to ships. Then under here in the very bottom, special edition ships, you're going to find it under destroyers, which is the Sunesis. So there's a whole line of kind of unlisted, special, very niche ships that are available for people to buy that aren't technically under a faction. So I'm still not sure why CCP hasn't developed like a separate shipping tree or something like that, because I would say like 80% of these ships I don't even know existed. So it's kind of interesting bringing that up. So this ship, most of these ships, the Sunesis class, I believe this stands for Society of Conscious Thought. I actually had to look it up before this, like what that actually meant. Again, it's just a class of secret ships, and these ships just have the reputation of just being extremely flexible. So they have a bonus to pretty much every type of weapon, including rockets. They can do drone damage. They can be armor or shield fit. They can be fast. They can be tanky. They're pretty much the ultimate Swiss Army knife when it comes to fits and what they're able to do. And they even got a bonus to those core probe scanner bonuses, so you can even do a little bit of exploration in these guys too as well. So now that we just covered very briefly what the Sunesis is and kind of what roles they can fulfill, it can even do some hauling too. And so we'll go ahead and jump into some of the fits right now. All right, guys, so we're going to go over the first fit here in a second. So a couple of things I do want to bring up. Someone in one of my previous videos did mention that I should put in timestamps, which is actually a really good idea. If I'm going to be covering, more than a couple fits, I think it's important for you guys to be able to pick out the fits that you want very quickly. So I'll be sure to put those in the description below. He also brought up something about Eve Workbench. I've used it before, but I've never used it to actually post fits of ships. I'm sure it's super simple to do, but I just have to take the time to do it. So when I have time, I'll do that as well. Put the links in the description as well. So all of these fits I'm about to show you guys here, the only rule I have is to make sure that this align time here in the bottom right is below 2 seconds. So if you guys don't know, the way that the Eve servers calculate align time and even just overall the actions of everything that happens in Eve is based on server ticks, which is rounded to the nearest second. So the whole point of having an align time of below 2 seconds is typically what's going to keep you safe from people locking and ganking you, or locking and warp scramming you, things like that, 99.9% of the time. So as long as this is below 2 seconds, you'll be fine. So again, if you have an align time of 1.01 or an align time of 1.99, as long as it's below 2 seconds, it doesn't make a difference. So if you have an align time that low, you should be putting those items or modules that are making your align time that low and putting them to something else like tank or something like that. So the skills on this character are pretty high, so it's not going to exactly reflect. But again, this low skill hauler I'm going to show you guys is pretty much something you can get in almost right away as an alpha account. I believe you will have to level up a couple skills first. So first things first is like you're going to want to level up. I believe you start off with Spaceship Command 4, which helps the agility of all ships. And the other one is evasive maneuvering, which I believe starts at 1 for all alpha characters. So you want to get that up to 3, which is the max for alpha. So, all right, so we're going to go over the low skill hauler here. So this is a hauler, or I should say, this is a fit that you can get into relatively quickly when you become an alpha account. Like I said, there are a few skills when it pertains to like evasive maneuvering, but if you literally copied this fit as is, it might take you a day, maybe two at the very, very most, to learn the skills to be able to use these type of modules and stuff. So let's go ahead and go over the rigs first, because that's probably the most important part, because this is kind of the stuff that's most permanent. So the low friction nozzle joint, again, is going to reduce our align time below 2 seconds. The reason that's so low is because, again, my skills are relatively high. I actually had to replicate this fit on the Python fitting assistant, which is a program you can use to replicate a fit on a character that has lower skills than you, because all the time I'll link a fit to somebody and they said they can't fit it because, oh, I have the skills only at 2 or 3 instead of 4 or 5. So I kind of have to adjust it. But this fit should be sub 2 second align as long as you have evasive maneuvering 3 and you have spaceship command 4. So it should be fine. So again, the low friction nozzle and having 2 of these is going to give that sub 2 second here. And there's really nothing else to put in here. I felt like putting in shield modules potentially, but I feel like that was a bit of overkill. So I just put in the small cargo optimizations. That's always going to be helpful. And of course, the shield extender here is just for a bit more tank. The shield hardener just for, again, a bit more tank. If you do feel like you're about to get ganked on a gate and you're landing or you're about to warp off, I mean, you can turn it on. But again, it's not going to help that much. But it's always there as a safety net in case for smart bombers, things like that in low sec. Again, so the cargo hold here actually holds a decent amount. So by default, you can only hold 600. But because of these cargo hold optimizations, that does increase. And these 2 items here, the damage control and the power diagnostic, is just to increase our tank a bit more. But let's say you did have something that weighed, or didn't say weigh, but it has you needed 1,000 meters cubed. The first thing I would do is remove the power diagnostic versus the damage control, because the damage control is going to give us a lot of tank that we don't want to lose. And so we're going to replace that. So the most important thing when you are hauling is the cargo, obviously. So you want to make sure that you can actually hold the cargo that you want to transport. So again, we just swapped out a power diagnostic for expanded cargo hold. And again, so we can actually hold it. Let's say we had something that was 3,500. So we need an extra 200. So you can actually take out the damage control and put in this one as well. But just be careful, because as you can see, and I think a lot of people forget about this part, is that if you look at the information for an expanded cargo hold, it says increases cargo hold capacity at the expense of velocity and hull strength. So as we're actually adding these on, our EHP, or kind of our overall health value, is actually going down. So if you actually remove this, our health actually goes up, funny enough. So the first things first is, if you have both of these in here, if you have both of these cargo expanders in here and you only need to hold, say, 900 M3, and that's the only thing you're carrying and you're about to go make your trip, just remove these and add in that damage control unit that I showed you earlier, just so you can get a bit of extra tank, because there's no reason to leave that in. It's something I see all the time in T1, and even some people using T2 haulers, just having way too much extra cargo space for no reason. And if you're not sure whether you need it or not, you can actually take these modules with you. I mean, these, the expanded cargo hold, only, I believe it's only 5 M3. I mean, we can look it up right here. So the funny thing is, you can actually just take these with you and you can swap these around wherever you want. So you just throw them in your cargo hold, and if you need the extra size, you just swap them out and you just keep the damage control and the power diagnostic in your cargo, and then you move to the next spot. And if you need less but you want to tank up more, you can just swap out the expandeds, put these tank modules in. So that's a nice way for you to stay flexible while you're out and about moving stuff for other people. So let's go ahead and get into the other fits. All right, so now we're going to go over the Omega fits. So these fits, exactly as is, they pretty much require Omega. So as you can see here, this is a max cargo Sunesis. Again, this is the maximum cargo you can have following the sub 2 second align time rule I have. So again, the small low friction nozzle joints 2s, and 2 of the expanded cargo optimizations here. So this is almost the exact same as the previous fit. The only difference here is that we only need 1 inertial stabilizer instead of 2 to be able to hit the sub 2 second. So that allows us to add another expanded cargo hold. And all of these modules over here are tier 2 because now we can fit it with the skills that we have. So this one is pretty straightforward. So again, I mean, you can, if you really wanted to, you can expand the cargo even further beyond that. So this can technically carry basically 2,600 meters cube, but this does two things. One, it makes our EHP dangerously lower than what it was prior. The other thing it's going to do too is going to make our line time now 3 seconds instead of 2, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, you could probably still get away with this, but if you are carrying something very expensive and someone scouts you ahead of time, and they want to kill you and they have the intention to do so, they pretty much will. So they can have a ship with very fast, lock time and scram you if they really found you and scouted you ahead of time in a timely fashion. So that's why I always follow the rule of sub 2 second align time for the most part. And this is technically the most you can carry, but I think the other ship is much safer and still does the job just as well. Okay, and so for our next fit, I just called the Tankesis. This is very niche. It's a fit. I don't even have a ship with this fit on it, but I guess it's for you people that like to go through low sec a lot, and apparently maybe you just get extremely unlucky and there is a gate camp just full of smart bombers. I mean, people that, 8+ smart bombers, and you just want to have as much tank as possible to survive that. This is the fit you want to go for. And so again, these are all just field extender 2s, medium shield extender 2s, multi-spectrum shield hardener 2, and as well as a damage control. And again, we're still following that sub 2 second align rule with 2 initial stabilizers here as well. So I mean, this thing is pretty hefty. I mean, this thing is pushing 23,000 EHP. I don't even have the max shield skills. I believe it's at 4. So once I get that to 5, I believe I'm training it right now. So this should actually be even higher if you have like max skills for the most part. But this thing should take a lot of beating. Again, your cargo hold can only handle 600. But if you did need to swap stuff out, I would start with the power diagnostic, throw in a cargo expander, and then if you need another one, go ahead and take out the damage control unit to be able to fit whatever it is you're trying to transport. But again, like I said, this one's extremely niche. I've never had to use it before myself, but for some of you guys that do go through low sec a lot and people are just really out to get you for some reason, this is one you can use yourself. So now we're covering the next fit, and this is the ship I use, I would say 9 times out of 10 for most contracts. I did call it speed for some reason, just because I really wanted to cut down on that warp time between going gate to gate, because some of the systems I go through are pretty large, and I believe by default the Sunesis is 4.5 AUs per second. So filling up these rigs with hyperspatial velocity optimizers basically just increases that. So pretty much reduces the time by almost half, I would say. And again, these are all just tier 2 modules here on the right side. I just have 2 expanded cargo hold 2s as a placeholder, as well as the stabilizers to get that below 2 seconds. So again, if I'm carrying something below 600, which is the default cargo capacity of the ship, I'll just throw in the damage control unit and the power diagnostic that I showed before for a bit of extra tank. If for whatever reason, I mean, if you do have the money to throw away, and you really want to add in these warp accelerators to get this number even higher. I mean, even the 2 limited ones, the 2 lowest tier ones, they cost about 10 mil each. I mean, you're only getting about 0.7 more AU a bit faster. So, I mean, it's about 10%, which isn't nothing, but I just don't think it's worth the extra cost, especially these most expensive ones, which adds about 1 whole AU. But I think making the ship cost 200 mil more just isn't worth it. So, again, this is, in my opinion, the ship I use the most, just for the fact that it's very quick. I can get deliveries done about 70% faster than the other ones that I showed prior, just because of that warp speed increase. And it's just very flexible. And again, this is the one that I feel like most people use when they're using the Sunesis as a hauler, because of its speed, its 2 second align time, and its super flexibility when it comes to tank for the most part. Okay, guys, I did promise you a super special secret fit. And this is it. So this is the fit. It's just called loot, but it's the fit that I use to basically ninja loot wrecks. Either the wrecks are by themselves, or they're literally right in front of people that are trying to take the loot for themselves. So you can use this out and about anywhere technically. But I mostly use this, I would say 99 times out of 100, just to basically perch myself about 200 kilometers away from a gate that I feel like people are going to die either from ganks, even Triglavian invasion systems. I've actually used this fit a handful of times out in Niarja. I watch people just die to the Triglavians, or if they do get ganked occasionally by one single person, they die, I warp in, I grab the loot, and you know, put in there, I'm out of there before they even know it. So we'll go ahead and go over the fit. I'm running 2 low friction nozzle joints, again, just to get this below 2 seconds. I guess one thing I should say is having a micro warp drive or an afterburner will screw up your align time, which is why you actually need to turn it off, because this is basically simulating it as if it's running, which does increase your align time, you know, making you warp a bit later than normal. So if we just basically turn it off as it normally would, our align time is 1.99 seconds. And I actually have 2 low friction nozzle joints and 1 polycarbon engine housing too. The reasoning for that was I could just use a low friction nozzle joint 1 and save a bit of money, and we still get that sub 2 second align time. But I noticed that our max speed was about 1460. But if I do this and add in the polycarbon engine housing, which also indirectly, I wouldn't say indirectly, but it mentions it right here, that it actually increases your ship velocity and maneuverability at the cost of armor amount. So we do lose a bit of armor. I think it's literally like 100 EHP. I didn't really check. But we actually end up going 100 meters per second faster, which I think is worth it, because literally when it comes to you know, looting wrecks, and you're trying to move between wrecks very, very quickly, and you're trying not to get locked and scrammed, literally every second counts. So that's why I ended up using this, because we get that little bit of extra velocity. We still have a 2 second align time. I completely filled up these bottom slots with Halcyon core equalizers, because the other ones, as you'll notice here, the CPU requirement is just like way too high. So these are the cheapest like Tech 1 versions you can have when it comes to CPU usage. So because we're using these, we can actually fit in a decent amount of shields to protect ourselves, because the whole point is that we show up, we loot the wreck, and we're out, I would say, within like 3 to 4 seconds for the most part. So, I mean, this is the fit. The only thing I would maybe change about this is, I mean, maybe some of the shields, if you want to use amplifiers, whatever it is, if you just don't have the skills for T2. You could remove one of these and maybe add in either a damage control unit, or if you want to be able to loot a little bit more, you can add in a expanded cargo hold. But I would always want to keep at least 3, just in case the person does have a faction scram strength of 3. You want to be able to fight that off and warp away. I just add a fourth one in there just for good measure, because you never know, someone might have 2 normal ones for a scram strength of 4, so you can still get out of there. That's just my opinion. So this is the one I use. It's still technically a hauler, because you're just, you know, you're hauling it for them. You're just securing the loot, make sure no one else takes it, and you're just hauling the loot away. So I still consider it a hauling fit. So I hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I have all the information down below in the description. And if you guys do have any friends, or if you guys do want to create like an alt account as well, down in the description, there is a link for a referral that I can get some cool little kickbacks from CCP that will give you guys 1,000 skill points, which means you guys will get into these type of fits, at least the Alpha Tech 1 fits, pretty much right away. So hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.